Get nervous. Yeah, just close your eyes and talk. There you go. Just close your eyes. You'll be fine. I'll say him boo you.
So, hello everyone, and thank you for coming out this afternoon. Many of you may be members of the National Society of Leadership and Success, and for those of you who are not, the National Society of Leadership and Success is an organization devoted to helping members discover and achieve their goals through student networking teams and broadcasted live events. After you become an inducted member of the NSLS, you will be eligible to pursue the National Engaged Leader Award. One of the requirements for this award is arranging a live speaker event. Our NELA group chose Pam Silvers, an amazing leader in our community. Pam Silvers was a first-generation, non-traditional college student. After completing her degrees at UNCA and Western Carolina University, she came to Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College to teach. She teaches in the Computer Technologies Department. Pam has been a pillar of support for many students and is an inspiration to many of us. She has given presentations at local, state, and national conferences, including those hosted by the American Association of Community Colleges, North Carolina Women in Technology, STEM Tech, and many other organizations. Today, she is here to share her knowledge on overcoming adversity with us.
Okay, without further ado, here she is.
Thank you. And I just want to encourage any of you, if you're not members of NALA, did I pronounce it right? Or other groups, to really think about it, because I think as a student, it's really easy to come to campus, leave, and not get to know other people. And it really, we have a tremendous community here, so meeting other people can be really helpful. And so if you came just to this talk and are not a member, I encourage you to get the paperwork or talk to someone about being a member. I'm here to talk a little bit about what happens when life throws you obstacles. Realistically, if you've never had anything bad happen in your life, I want to know what drugs you're on. You know, we're all going to have things that don't happen the way we want. And it really comes down to how do you respond when you have adversity. And this came about as I was doing a talk for a group a few years ago, and I had a story that I hadn't really realized was a story until I started talking about it. But to give you a little bit of a history about myself, I am a first-generation college student. My dad had an 8th grade education, and it wasn't that he was dumb or anything. He was born in 1924. He was a farmer in Nebraska in the 1930s. And you finished your education at 8th grade because you were done and you were going to be a farmer the rest of your life. My mom was a town girl and grew up in the town of St. Paul, Nebraska, population now 2,000, probably 1,000. But since she was a town girl, she went to high school. I'm one of 8 kids. I have 6 brothers and a sister. And my mom and dad were, when we graduated from high school, they were accomplishing what they wanted us to do because we were going to have our high school degree and ready to go on. So we were growing up. I have 6 brothers and a sister. We're all doing very nicely. My mom and dad, I look back at it now and realize that their best friends were Dale and Bernice. I don't think as a kid I thought of my parents having best friends, but they went out with Dale and Bernice on Saturday nights to the American Legion to dance. Did any of you grow up having to watch Lawrence Welk? You're all too young for it. Yeah, you know what I mean, Lawrence Welk, church and Lawrence Welk were the 2 holy times at our house or something. But anyway, they went dancing, and we went to a small Lutheran parochial school in the middle of the country. There were 3 teachers, so kindergarten, 1st and 2nd were together, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And we carpooled to school, and I look at it now and go, oh my gosh, because I counted, and between my family with the siblings, and we rode with the Helwigies and the Hegos and the Jacobsons. At times there were 11 kids stuffed in the car. And when I say stuffed, it was one kid on top of another, and when there was a baby, they were just tossed on the top. Not the top of the car, the top of the person sitting there. And yeah, we weren't doing Mitt Romney. But anyway, they were sitting on the top of the car, you know, going down to school and everything. So Dale and Bernice were Mom and Dad's best friends, and they went out with them. Well, one day, Dale was driving down to pick his kids up from school, and they found him on the side of the road. He had died of a heart attack. And it was definitely a tragic event. And he left Bernice as a widow. And I can't even imagine it. And she had 4 kids. They had 4 kids that ranged in age from 4 to 6. And this is, without a doubt, a very tragic event. It is really, I can't even imagine it happening to me. But I sometimes look, and what happened after that is probably even more tragic or something. And that is because at that point, and Bernice was 39 years old at the time, and for Bernice, life quit at that moment. When her kids got into trouble in school, they would not have gotten into trouble except Dale died. Oh, well, you know, they wouldn't have had except Dale died. When her car would have a problem, well, I wouldn't be having this car issue except Dale died. When she would go out with my mom to get something to eat, she would order the cheapest thing on the menu and go, oh, I'd really like to have that, but Dale died. And she quite honestly would say, I can't do this because Dale died. And she would, you know, they were living on a farm, but in the Nebraska, probably not today, and definitely not in the 1970s, a woman would not have become the farmer taking over. So she moved into town. I kind of envied it. She had a nice ranch house with like 2 bathrooms and all of these things, you know, but she had to move into town because I died. I don't think it probably ever occurred to her to get some education, so she was taking very low-paying jobs. She sold Avon for a period, which was about as, would be as silly as me selling Avon in that I don't wear makeup or anything, but she was selling Avon. She was doing different things, and she had to do it because Dale died. When my dad passed away, she told Mom, well, you really don't know what it's like because Dale died when he was so much younger. And so she couldn't even tell my mom as a new widow in her 60s, I'm sorry for it. And all of us would agree Bernice had a right to grieve. Bernice, 100%, what happened to her was tragic, it was unfair, and she had a right to grieve. But Bernice lived to be 84 years old. So for 45 years, she stopped her life because Dale had died, and everything was, well, if only Dale hadn't died, I would have done this. At her daughter's wedding, she really was saying, well, you know, if only Dale hadn't died, he could have been here to enjoy the wedding. And I look at it and I go, oh my gosh, she had something that we would all agree was absolutely horrendous and no one should have to experience. And we all agree she had a right to agree. But 45 years, and I know Dale, he would not have wanted her to do this. And I think at 39, she could have gone to school and gotten a degree and did something that she wanted to do. She could have dated again. And I know, and I asked my mom to confirm this, she never dated a person or anything. She was probably married to Dale for 20 years. She could have met someone and have been with them longer than she had been alive before. But she never went out. She never did anything. You know, it would have been wrong at the funeral. She would have handed out cards and been doing a, you know, call me. So, yeah, you know, we're going to give her the period of time. And I would not even, you know, I won't begin to say, gee, you don't deserve several years. But this is what I really want to talk about is we are going to have things happen. It would be really nice if good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. You know, and it was nice and discreet and we could all be going merrily along and go, I'm a good person, I don't have to worry about this. But you are going to have things happen to you, and it really is the what are you going to respond when you have it happen to you. Because how many of you, if I would have met you 5 years ago, would have said that you would be sitting at AB Tech today taking classes? I'm seeing 1 hand, 2 hands or so. You know, most of us were going along on a path very nicely and thought we had figured out what we were going to do, and then something got in the way. It might have been a dumb choice on our part, or it might have been something like happened to Bernice. When I started out in school, I remember my parents coming home from my third grade parent-teacher conference. And I remember really my mom saying, your teacher said you could do anything you want, you could even go to college. Now, I'm pretty sure there was a but, you're not doing your work, et cetera, et cetera. But I remember the word college was mentioned, and I had no idea what a college was. I mean, I look back now, and nobody in my parents' generation went to college. I'm assuming that quite a few maybe only had 8th grade educations, but they did not go to college. My grandparents didn't go to college. My 7 siblings, none of them went to college. Nobody in my cousins, and I had a lot of cousins there, went to college. I didn't know people who went to college. I probably maybe had an idea that teachers went to college, but they also were in a closet and only came out to teach, so I didn't, they weren't really people or anything. So, but in my brain, I did have that planted that I could go to college. I had no idea what it was. But when I got into high school, I did take the college classes, and I went to college, and you know what? I had no idea when I got to college what a college was. Have any of you ever felt like the secret thing that other people know about college that you don't know? When you start out, it really is that a lot of studies are showing that it's not as much rich-poor advantage or something. It's really that the students, and I have a study that shows that if you had your parents went to college, either parent, SAT scores on the whole are like 30 points higher. And so family background, they know the rules and what it is for college. So I went to college in my first year. I often say I know why I was there, but it had nothing to do with an education. I had a lot of fun. But yeah, GPA wasn't really good. But I'm going along, I'm in college, I'm going to get a degree and everything. And then I really did what a lot of people do. I fell in love, and I quit college because I was going to be married forever and everything, and that was good for about 12 years. Yeah, forever, 12 years. No, but anyway, then, but I'll have to say, I do not regret at all marrying my first husband. If I had not met him, I truly believe I would be a Nebraska farm wife with 5 kids. The average number that my siblings had is 3.2, and been canning and cooking and be on Prozac and yeah, but you know what? I think it would have been a good life. I see my siblings when I go and visit, and they're all very happy. But that's not the path I took. I got married. We, going along well until one morning, and it was really a Sunday morning. My ex said, "Oh, I'm tired of being married. I didn't realize he didn't add to you because he was having an affair." But anyway, at that point, I really was sitting here. We had moved to North Carolina a year and a half before for his job. I had a job that was an okay job for a second income, but it was not a job that I could pay for my living. And I really, for 13 years, I've been saying, oh, someday I'm going back to school. And I really have no idea why, but I really made that someday of, I didn't do anything fast, the divorce, I'm having the anger, mad, how dare you, what can I get to take him for everything? I was going to use a different word. But anyway, you have all of those thoughts, but then you decide that you should maybe be adult about it. But I can honestly say, I've always said I'm going to get my education. It is now time for me to put up or shut up. Now, I'll tell you, there were obstacles that people put in. First of all, my family all expected me to move back to Nebraska. And, it's, oh, well, come back here and then you can go to school. And I said, well, if I move back to Nebraska, then I have to wait till I get residency. And by that time, I'm going to have gotten a job and I'm not going to go back to school. So I said, I really have to do it here. I went to the financial aid office at UNCA and said, I want to become a full-time student. And they go, well, what was your income last year? And that was based on, some of you have experienced this with FAFSA. It was based on my and my ex's income. And so the person said, well, just quit working for a year and come back and we can give you all kinds of financial aid. How many of you have lived in Asheville for more than 10 years? Okay, so you remember when Pritchard Park was a place you didn't want to go to? And I actually told the person, I said, so what, I go live in Pritchard Park for a year, and if I'm still alive, you'll give me financial aid? And so, you know, it was like, okay, that's not happening. I went and talked to a person in the business department at UNC, and she goes, why are you going to school? You have a good job. I had a okay job for a second income for a family. I did not have a job that was going to pay me a livable wage. And I really started thinking, what is it that I want to do? And I said, okay, I want to earn enough money, because all of us want to earn enough money to do something. But my kind of requirements were, I do want a vehicle that is reliable. I want to go out in the morning and start my car and actually know it's going to start and everything. So reliable transportation was a really big thing to me. And I said, I want to earn enough that I can take a vacation each year. Sometimes I like to go to a vacation at, you know, I love the beach. Just came back from a vacation at Disney World, which is kind of the higher level of vacation, but I could do that. And I said, I really want enough disposable income, so like if 2 days before payday somebody says, you know, do you want to go out for lunch? I can go out for lunch and not go, oh, if I go out for lunch, I can't, you know, get gas for the week or whatever. So that is, I was looking at what could I do for income for it. And so I got my degree. I have a combination business, computer science degree, but I went to UNCA and I got my degree. And I will say during that time, I met my current husband. We've now been together 26 years. We didn't get married till after 10 years. I didn't want to rush it. But anyway, it was that we got married, and then there was a posting here to teach a class on a Saturday. And I applied for it, and I was so excited to get it. I realized they were even more excited to have someone who was willing to give up every Saturday from 10 to 3, but at the time I didn't realize it. And after a week, after 4 weeks, I went and I said, well, this is great. How do I get hired full-time? And they go, you have to get a master's degree. And I can honestly say, mine was like, people like me don't get master's degrees. You know, I kind of had pushed it to get a bachelor's degree, but I love teaching. So I went to Western Carolina and got my master's degree, and it ended up a week after I graduated, someone quit a full-time job here. It was back in the 90s when people thought they could make a lot more money working private computer industry. But I got hired full-time, and then after I got hired full-time in 2002, I did a department chair. It's getting harder for me to remember, but I was department chair until this summer. But this summer, we applied for and got a National Science Foundation grant for $900,000 that I'm administering, so I'm not department chair anymore. And none of this would have ever happened. And by the way, if I were still married to my first husband, I also believe that I would still be taking an occasional class and saying, someday I'll get my degree, probably have once again been junior league wife and doing all of that sort of thing. And I would have been happy with that life. But I had the obstacle put in the front, and I was going, okay, not where I'm at. And I cannot imagine not having the life I have now. I will tell you, I love teaching. I love being at AB Tech. I have gotten amazing travel opportunities. With the grant and other things, about 6 years ago, I had the chance to go to India twice under a grant. I have just been, this year I was figuring out, and I've been to Denver and Portland, Oregon, and San Antonio, and Austin, and DC, and everything. And I'm just doing things that are totally amazing. And I could have, you know, first of all, I could have not gone to school and said, hey, people like me don't go to school. And the only difference, and I was a very successful student when I went back to school after divorce, and the biggest difference is the first time I went, I was scared to ask questions. I thought everyone else knew what they were doing, and I was the one who was, you know, because they all looked like they knew that. I realized the second time they were all just faking it, and everyone was just sitting there going, oh yeah, that must be what the professor thinks and stuff. Everyone's relieved if you ask a question, believe me. And as a teacher, I like to hear them too, but you know, asking the questions and really looking and saying, okay, this is a path I'm choosing, and I still, any of you ever get the little voice in your ear going, what do you think you're doing? You don't belong there. Or you might even have your family or someone telling you that. You know, there are days that I honestly sit there and go, wait a sec, a farm girl from Nebraska, I am not a person who is, you know, going and presenting at conferences all over the country and, you know, leading a department and managing a $1.5 million budget and things like that. And so there's days when I kind of think Dr. King is going to stand at the door with a hook and grab me out going, you imposter, you, what do you think you're doing? And I can, you know, I've gotten better to be able to squash that voice or whatever, but you are going to hear that at times. You're at the people who go, yeah, why are you going to school? Why are you doing this? You should be, you know, out getting a job, you should be working. And I really want to encourage all of you to think about, where do I want to be in 5 years? When I was a student, I have cleaned houses, I've short ordered cooked, which was very sad for the people eating probably. I pumped gas this summer, and any of you ever watch Andy Griffith? I was like Goober, you know, out pumping the gas and washing the windows, and if they asked me to check the oil. And I really remember the summer I did it was when gas went over 50 cents a gallon. And so, and it's because we had one pump that only did 49.5 or 9, and they made that a self-service pump at the gas station. But I pumped gas. I have done almost anything, and I can tell you, there's nothing wrong with any job as long as it's not illegal or unethical. There's nothing wrong with cleaning houses. There's nothing wrong with custodial or anything like that. But for yourself, you really have to think, where do I want to be in 5 years? And work on this. You know, most of you are students, I'm assuming, of being here. But if you're, you know, if you have to quit and only can take one class a semester, 5 years from now, you could still have your degree. But if you just quit and say, oh, well, I could, you know, my car broke down, I couldn't get to school, you're not going to be there, and it's going to be kind of your Dale died moment of, I couldn't go to school, you know, Dale died. In your case, it might be car broke down, or, you know, I had this happen. And so you are going to have adversity, and sometimes you just have to ask for help. And kind of keep in mind, where would I like to be in 5 years? Where would I like to be in 10 years? A lot of times when I was working on my bachelor's degree, you know, I'm away from my family, and I haven't made a lot of friends here or anything, but I had to keep thinking, I'll get my degree, and then I'll have the flexibility, and I'll be earning the salary. You know, I've been with my current husband, like I said, for 26 years, but I'm with him on any given day because I want to be, not because I have to be for finances. So, you know, really think about, what do you want to do? And I also have realized, I thought about things for jobs, and this is, what kind of environment do you want to work in? I know from teaching, I kind of like a Monday through Friday job. I like to have my weekends and holidays off. I had worked at a law office where our busiest time was between Christmas and New Year's. So I didn't want that environment for it. I would not want to work on an outside job, but some of you are probably majoring that that's something you would want. It is so wonderful that all of us do not want to be teachers, or all of us do not want to be doctors. I mean, think about if the whole world only had doctors. So there was no one to cook, there was no one to teach, there was no one to do anything else. So don't let someone else's dream become yours, because it's really the, what do you want to do? And my sister, like I said, my mom and dad really, it wasn't anything being vindictive or being, you know, cruel or anything. Their goal was for all of us to graduate from high school. That was doing better than they had done. And so it wasn't a, oh, we only want you to go to high school. It was a, all of our kids are going to graduate from high school. And all 8 of us did. My sister has her Dale died moment. And it's that Mom and Dad did not encourage her to go to college. And I remember after my divorce, when I was going back to school full time here, and I'm talking to her on the phone, and she goes, oh, I just wish I could go back to school. Mom and Dad never encouraged us to go to college. And I said, Sandy, why don't you start taking one class a semester, or I said, why don't you start taking classes at your community college here? And she goes, oh, well, I have 3 kids. I could only do 1 class a semester. And I said, well, why don't you start taking 1 class a semester? Well, she did. I was home this last year at Christmas, and we're driving to go out shopping, doing some pre-Christmas shopping. And anyway, she looks, you know, I resent Mom and Dad. They never encouraged me to go to college. My sister is 62 years old. in between 18 and 62, could have she taken some classes and gone to college? You know, it's her Dale died moment. And I looked at her, and I'll have to say, I was being in the holiday spirit, so I did not go, what are you talking about? But I'm like, well, you could still go to college and things. And but she did. She went on and on about how she just couldn't believe Mom and Dad didn't encourage us to go to college and everything. And I am just sitting there going, couldn't get over it. It's back when she was 18 or 19 or 20, she could have gone back to school, but I think after you're 25, it's no longer fair to blame your parents about what you could and could not do or something. Because if she would have started taking one class a semester 28 years ago, what if she had a degree? Yeah, I cannot imagine that she would not have had enough credits to have a degree, and she would not be having her Dale died moment, which is that Mom and Dad never encouraged her to go to college. So she has let that be a major stumbling block and a thing that in her life was wrong. That it's much easier, I guess, to blame my parents than to say, oh, getting a degree is really important to me. I'm going to start taking a class to get my degree. And yeah, it would have taken her a long time. But like I said, I think in 28 years, she would have accomplished it. So don't let the Dale died moments in your life affect your behavior forever. Like I said, you are entitled to have the timing that you're going, this is unfair, this stinks, I shouldn't have had this, we're going to have things happen. And I think all of us have Dale died moments that are big and small. Any of you ever have your kids not ready in the morning and you sit there and you go, I can't believe kids weren't ready, I ruined my whole day. Get over it. You can have it for the first 15 minutes or something, but then you can decide, is that going to influence what I'm thinking? Is that my Dale died moment for the day? Or am I going to say, well, they started out not great, but I'm going to have a plan for it so it doesn't happen in the future. A lot of you had raised your hand that you've lived here a while, so you know what happens when one of the boulders comes down on I-40, and so we can't drive on I-40 to Tennessee. So let's say that you're planning on going to Gatlinburg this weekend, and the boulder falls down on the highway. You could go out there with your little spoon, and if they'd let you get close enough, try to chip away going, I'm supposed to go to Gatlinburg this weekend. I need this boulder gone. It's not going to happen. The boulder's still going to be there. And I'll tell you what, we all don't want to hear you about how you were supposed to go to Gatlinburg for the weekend or whatever. But, yeah, we're going to be disappointed, but that's when you can make a decision and say, I was headed to Gatlinburg. Couldn't do it. So one is, it's really important to go to Gatlinburg. You can go up on Highway 441 or go up through Bristol, and you can make it to Gatlinburg on a different route. Two, you could say, I really wanted to get out of town this weekend. The weather looks great at Myrtle Beach. I'm headed down to the beach instead. Or you could even say, well, I wanted to have some fun this weekend, but everyone comes to Asheville on vacation. I'm going to take the money I would have spent in Gatlinburg and do all the things in Asheville that people were going to do. So you could spend the whole weekend going, well, I was supposed to be in Gatlinburg. Well, I was supposed to be in Gatlinburg. Or you can say, that didn't happen. What can I do for the alternative? And that's really that we are all going to have, like I said, if you've never had anything bad happen to you, yeah, we need to talk, but or possibly someone more qualified than me needs to talk to you. But anyway, but the real part is that when when you have the adversity, and it's okay to go through all the stages of the grief, the unfair, the mad, the angry, the everything else, but make sure it's in proportion to what you want to spend for your energy for time. I would probably have given Bernice easily, 5 years or so. Wouldn't have been outrageous for having the grief, but I think all of you agree that 46 years was way too long. So, it's in there somewhere. I would have said after a couple of years, it probably would have been kind of scary if she would have started dating a month later or whatever. But it's that you're going to have the things, and you can have your entire life be driven by your Dale died moments. Dale died, I'm not getting to do this. Dale died, I'm not going to get to do this. It can be, well, my funding fell through. I'm not going to ever be able to be a student again or whatever. So you really have to decide You know, what can I do about it and what's important? By the way, I made the decision when I went back to school. It was also either it's time for me to go back to school or it's kind of time to say I'm not going to do it. And there would have been no problem with me not getting a college degree. It's not like everyone in my family had one and was expected to do it. It was that I looked and said, this is going to be important to me, and now's my time to be able to do it. I kind of hope I would have been as gracious at the end of it and said, oh, I'm not getting a degree, I moved on, I no longer am in that path of what I want to do. So it's, don't get too welded to a plan that you can't recognize that it's not the right plan for you anymore. It is that things are going to change, and something that seemed really right to you at 18 or 20 or 30 might not be right for you again when you're 40. So also don't think, well, I said I was going to do this, I have to. It's also looking at the where do I want to be in 5 years from now for it. There was a study that was done, and I meant to look it up before I came here this morning. It was either with Yale or Harvard students, but they asked some of them to write down what their goals were. And the others, so they just kind of were doing a longitudinal study. And 20 years, they followed it after like 10 years and after 20 years or something. But they found that the students who had written down what they wanted to accomplish possibly had not accomplished those items. So it wasn't that they did it, they were often doing many and things totally different than what they had written down. But on the whole, they were doing better in life and happier. So they were earning, and their things that they did that better in life is that they were earning more money, they ranked themselves happier, they had all of these things. So, you know, having a plan is really good. Writing it down is really good. How many of you plan a vacation? If you're going on vacation, do you plan it? You think about where you're going? You have an idea. Most people do not just get in a car and say, I'm going on vacation. You know where you're going on vacation. You figured out how you're getting there, if you're driving, if you're, you know, what you're doing for that. You figure out where you're staying and everything. People spend more time planning vacations than they sometimes plan their lives. You know, you just hope life turns out okay, but your vacation's down to the last detail. And so, you know, part of it, plan of what you want to do, but no, it might change. And the other is, think about things you want to accomplish and write it down. I have a friend in DC, and he has a list on his refrigerator of things he would like to do in life. Now, some of them, he's an attorney, but one of his things on his list is that he'd like to be a Supreme Court justice, and it ain't ever going to happen. And he knows it. But he said, hey, if he were looking at dreams, that's one he has written down. But he also has things like that. He would like to learn how to scuba dive. Now, my friend is a very large person, probably topping scales at 400 pounds or something. But he was snowed in at a Christmas time about 9 or 10 years ago, and he kind of was looking on the list at the fridge, and he goes, oh, scuba diving, I wonder if that's reasonable. And he called up a local dive shop, and he goes, okay, I'm, you know, at this weight, can I scuba dive? And they go, yeah. They go, the only thing is you need more ballast or whatever for you to go down. But he learned how to scuba dive, and he has scuba dived all over the world. I mean, he goes on these trips because he's a single attorney in D.C., to like Tahiti and Hawaii for 3 or 4 weeks and stuff. But he said if he hadn't had it written down, he would have probably never thought about doing it. But it was there, and he was just like, it's on my list. Do I want to follow up or not? So part of me would encourage you, have lists of things that you would like to accomplish, and look at it and, you know, update it frequently. And some of them might be that realistic that, oh, I'd like to learn to scuba dive. And some of them might be, I want to be a Supreme Court justice, you know, never going to happen. But it's not bad to have it. But also, as you are looking at items, you really want to, you know, if something gets in a stumbling block, don't let that become your focus point of, I said I was going to do this, and my whole life is a disaster because it didn't work that way. And, you know, things are going to happen. It would be really nice if the road, well, you know, I don't know if I would have been happy if the road I picked originally at 18 would have happened that way, because I cannot imagine my life not being the way it is. So you know, you're going to have things that come in your way, and you have to decide, and sometimes it is so important of what I want to do, I'm going to figure a way around it. But don't spend your time just running into that boulder and saying, well, you know, what would have Bernice did if Dale suddenly was alive again? I don't think her life would have turned out as perfect as she thought. First of all, I think her car would have still broke down on occasion. I think her kids would have still got in trouble on occasion. All of these things that all happened because Dale died probably did not. And, you know, Bernice didn't even really make any new friends or anything. I mean, my mom got to a point, Bernice has passed away, and my mom's still alive, but she'd go, well, I need to call Bernice to go out for lunch. But my mother, even, who is like the kindest, gentlest person, was like, I wonder how long before she brings up that Dale died. So my mother recognized it and things. So, you know, you're going to have items, but just really of looking at it is when things go wrong, you know, they're going to, and decide what you're going to do. And, you know, sometimes we do our own stupid things that get us into trouble, but at that point say, no, we don't have the time machine yet that we were promised by Michael J. Fox back in 1985, but no, we can't travel in the time, but so you can't change the past. You can maybe fix some things, but it happened. What you can really change is your reaction to it and what you're going to do from this point moving forward. So that's what I had. I didn't talk quite as long as I hoped, but what do people have for questions or comments or anything? I know you're all going, well, we're getting an hour of credit for this and I'm getting out early.
My husband passed away in 2009, and I didn't like it too much, but he was sick before he was ill for a long time, and it was sad. I still miss him, but I was like, well, I'm by myself now, and I didn't want to stay home all the time. So I started taking a bunch of continuing education classes just to get out the house for a while. And now I'm going to college, and to be honest, poor girl needs to get out the house.
Uh-huh.
But I also want to accomplish something too. It's not just to waste time. But I look at it as an opportunity. Life don't stop because somebody dies.
You know, that's my mom became a widow 20 years ago. And she had, you know, and in fact, one of her, my dad's sisters, like, gets almost irritated that mom's out doing things. And mom said nothing she does, Harvey, my dad, you know, would not have been upset with her doing them. But she's traveled, and she said she did things that dad would not have wanted to do. And she is very, you know, she went with us to Disney World last week, which I went on a vacation, and my mom, and I counted our steps, and my mom's 86 years old, but like one day we did 8 miles of walking and everything. My dad, after he retired from being a farmer, never walked 8 miles probably for the rest of his life. I'm not sure. Yeah, my dad wasn't in that. But mom said, you know, she and dad would have had a different life. But when he passed away, at that point she could have sat for 20 years going, oh, if only Harvey hadn't died. Or she could actually do things. And she said nothing she's embarrassed about, but yeah, it's like her life did go on. Mhm. Mhm. And kind of the wisdom to know the difference too. Yeah. You know, that is the serenity prayer from Alcoholics Anonymous, and I just love it. Is, you know, change the things I can, accept the things I cannot, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think, yeah, it sometimes is there. Like Bernice wanted to change the fact that Dale died, you know, and she just kept hitting that with a stick all the time instead of saying, well, this isn't fair. Life, you know, if you think that life is going to be fair, I have some bad news for you. You know, it isn't going to be fair necessarily, but as you're doing it, this is the hand I was dealt at this point. How do I move forward? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it is, you know, and I 100% would not take away any of my life experiences. You know, if I had not been married to my first husband, I honestly would not be here today. If I, you know, but I also wouldn't have, if I'd remained married to him, I would not be here today either because I would have never finished my degree. So, you know, I was going along several times in my life on really great paths, and boulders came down, and yeah, so you accept it, but I would not, so people go, well, do you wish that wouldn't have happened? And no, that's who has made me who I am today. So without a doubt, don't spend time also going, oh, well, if only, yeah, I hadn't done this, I hadn't had this happen. Yeah, they're what made you the person that you are, and build on those experiences. If you have a behavior that's a bad behavior or something, yeah, maybe it's time to say, I'm ready to move on past that, but accept that you're going to have things. Other questions, comments, or anything? I think if you were asked to sign in 2 places. One is that there is, for the Leadership Academy, there is a sign-in sheet that you have to do. But then we also have, we were able to provide some refreshments out there. So for those of you who came for refreshments, they'll be set up out there. But we were paying for those for the grant, and we have to show that I'm just not randomly buying food for the fun of it or for my Friday night party or something. So there's also food out there for that. And I know that the group wants to say a few things too.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for coming and listening to my favorite teacher, Brown Points. Give us how to get over Dale died moments. I want you all to know that we have taken it upon ourselves to get a thank you card for her. And if anyone would like to sign, you're all more than welcome. And Tim has that card in the back. So please sign the card. And thank you so much for coming. And we will see you in the lobby for refreshments.